All right, the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to some dividing is multiplying by the conjugate. And so I hope that you remember this word from Algebra 2. The conjugate just means I change the middle sign. So if I have 2 plus 9i, 2 plus 9i, then my conjugate is 2 minus 9i. So here's what I want you to see happens when we multiply by the conjugate. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, 2 times negative 9i is negative 18i. 9i times 2 is positive 18i. And then 9i times negative 9i is minus 81i squared. Okay, so why is this even significant? The middle terms cancel, and they always will if you multiply by the correct conjugate. That I squared becomes a negative 1. So really I have 4 plus 81, which is 85. When you multiply an imaginary number by its conjugate, you get a real number, okay? You get a real number. I's go away. So why is this important? This is important when we go to dividing, okay? So I'm going to do this first one with you, and then you're going to try. I'll jump start you on the second one, and I want you to try it. So we are going to multiply this 1 plus 2i times 1 minus 2i, top and bottom. Okay. Now the top is easy. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times negative 2i is negative 6i. Over. Now, here's what you have to remember. You can put these in parentheses and FOIL the whole thing out if you want to, but you can also remember what we just did. The O and the I, let me see if I can flip back kind of quickly. It doesn't want to move very fast. When I FOILed these, do you see how the middle terms canceled out right here? Okay, they're going to do the same thing. So I can FOIL and just do the first. 1 times 1 is 1. And I can just do the last. 2i times negative 2i is negative 4i squared. Okay, now, and some of you might be thinking, well, there's still an I squared in there. Change it to a negative 1. So we have 3 minus 6i over 1 plus 4, or 3 minus 6i over 5. Okay, 3 minus 6i over 5. All right, so let me jump start you on 13, and then I want you to try it. Okay, we're going to fix the bottom. 6 minus I on the top. 7 minus root 2i. Okay. So you need to be multiplying by the conjugate of the bottom. So the conjugate is 7 plus root 2i. 7 plus root 2i. Okay, I'm about to stop talking and let you try. The top has to be FOILed. Okay, the bottom technically has to be FOILed, but you can leave the O and the I out because we know that they cancel. All right, you go. Okay, I'm going to start writing. If you need more time, just pause and keep working, and then you can start comparing answers. All right, hit pause right here if you're not ready to compare answers because I'm going to keep talking. Okay, so a couple things I want to point out to you. Some of you might be confused where this 2 is. Remember that root 2 times square root 2 is just plain 2. I squared, oh, I didn't square the 7. That should be 49. I times I is I squared. Okay, now that I squared becomes a negative 1. So we have 49 minus 2 times negative 1, or 51. Now on the top, if we look at all of our stuff on the top, our I squared here can become a negative 1. Okay, but then none of this stuff can be combined together because some have i's, some have square roots. There's nothing that is exactly the same on the top and the bottom. So our answer is just all of those terms, which looks really complicated. Okay. All right, let's do some simpler stuff. That's the hard stuff. All right, now we're going to solve some equations. I'm going to talk you through 14, and then I want you to try 15 and 16. The first thing that we would do in 14 is move that 72 over. So we get x squared equals negative 72. And then when we solve for x, we have to square root both sides. Now, before we would write no solution. Now we're not. We're actually going to solve it. X equals plus or minus square root negative 72, which I need to fix. Plus or minus 72 breaks down into 36 times 2, and then that negative sign becomes an I. Okay, so my final answer is plus or minus 6 square root 2I. Okay, now I'm going to forewarn you on 15 and 16. The squared term, and let me highlight it in the first problem. The squared term right here has to be completely by itself before you can square root both sides. Completely by itself. Okay, so I would like for you to go ahead and try 15 and 16. I'm going to start writing up the answers, so you just hit pause, and I'm going to write, and you can check when you get done, and I might say a few things about 16. So hit pause now. All right, take a minute and check your answers before we go on to our very last, final, and easy topic.